Cost of living crisis.
Living.
Let's see. So let's look at what a cost of living crisis is, because some people don't know, and I wanted clarity earlier today as well when I was looking at this. So a cost of living crisis simply refers to a situation in which prices of everyday goods and bills are rising while wages and state benefits fail to keep pace. The UK's current crisis is particularly acute because several different factors are driving the increase, meaning Brits, big issues, words not mine, are facing price hikes across the board rather than just on bills or just on groceries. Also, some of the factors driving the current spike in prices include high demand for oil and gas and pushing up energy prices across the globe, leading to higher costs for energy companies and subsequently their customers. Government support offered during the pandemic, such as reduced VAT rates in hospitality ending. Shortages in staff across a number of sectors, including hospitality and transport. That's partly due to the pandemic, but also compounded by Brexit. The reason I took the source of the big issue is like they mentioned Brexit, which seems to be like the ultimate taboo at the minute. We'll come back to that when we have a chat in a minute, though. Which so many foreign workers leave the country. Shortages of some goods due to supply chain disruptions, and what could be the reason for that? All of these factors have driven up the UK's inflation rate, which is a measure of how fast prices are rising. There was actually a gentleman in the comments on the Facebook page, and he was saying he feels lucky because they managed to negotiate, like through collective bargaining, that their wages would be linked to any rises in inflation.
Oh, wow.
So
That's interesting.
good for you. Nice one.
Definitely something we need to come back to, actually. Yeah.
Well, that's possible solutions for people through unions and whatnot. So inflation is anticipated to reach a 30-year high of 6%, so that you'll be getting a 6% pay rise by the spring. Combined with tax hikes, the Institute for Fiscal Studies estimates that a person on an average 30 grand salary will see their pay cut by 1,600 per annum. Wow, that's a lot, man. So how much worse off will I actually be? Because wages continue to stagnate in the face of price and tax increases, millions of people are soon to be worse off in 2022 as the cost of living squeezes household finances. The amount you will lose in real terms will depend on your personal circumstances, but the Resolution Foundation estimated last month that households will be an average of £1,200 worse off in 2022 than in previous years. The additional cost will affect poorer households disproportionately due to the fact they pay a higher percentage of their income on things like energy bills, the Resolution Foundation said. So, my good friend Alice, what's your thoughts on that?
Kind of reading that, I kind of try not to have a little panic attack.
Panic attacks are us, isn't it?
No. I mean, this is kind of coming in the energy thing alone. I mean, they're like saying that's coming up in April. Now, about 5 days before Christmas, my energy company told me that our direct debits were going up by another 35 quid a month. And that's when we're already paying a direct debit, which is quite high, because apparently what we were using wasn't covered in the direct debit, so they were hiking that up. I got told 5 days before Christmas. It's basically like the equivalent of about like 500 quid, and like, oh, we'll send you a bill in the post. Like, cheers,
cheers, mate.
Brilliant timing that. But we don't use loads of energy. It's like we're not really kind of wasteful people, it's not like we've got like every light blaring. Like today, like when I was coming up the stairs to do this, I was like a dad, like walking around turning light switches off, and that doesn't need to be on, and that doesn't need to be on. And that's coming from a household at the minute where we do have two incomes coming in at the minute. We're not on high incomes, but we've prior to this, we've been getting food on the table, we've been getting our bills paid on time, and we've done okay. But, we know a lot of people who are struggling a lot more. And I'm looking at this thinking, this is awful. Like, I dread it every time I go food shopping now. The price of food is absolutely ridiculous. Even when you're meal prepping and you kind of meal planning and stuff, again, stuff we all do, and, try not to be kind of too wasteful. And I'm kind of thinking, oh, like I'm a bit worried about this. I'm absolutely terrified for people who I know that are struggling. You know, I've got family members on universal credit and stuff and things like that. And we spoke last week about, you know, the poor tax, you know, particularly if you've got prepaid meter in and how much people are paying for their energy there. A few years ago, actually, I did try to start a campaign to stop people on prepaid meters being paid more, paying more for their energy. I do feel like, well, there was a couple of things that kind of hampered it. It started gaining quite a lot of support in the general public, but it didn't in the left in general. And I
Why
do
is
think
that?
I think it wasn't really seen as a sexy cause, to put it bluntly. You know, it's not something cool.
But surely,
You know,
I mean, like, sorry, I didn't mean to put in, but I want to mention something. Like I said last week as well, like, I don't know what the left is. I don't know what.
Yeah.
I'm not directing that at you, but
No,
and like this is part of what you just said. If the left isn't for going to bat for the millions of people already living in poverty after however long of austerity over a decade, soon to be in even more poverty and people dragged out of like the working class, middle class, and dragged into under the poverty line because of this oncoming cost of living crisis, then what the fuck is the left for?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that happened as well is I did actually manage to get a couple of MPs who were kind of like, actually, this is a really good thing, you know, to kind of talk about, and you know, we should definitely take it forward. And like, here's a couple of ideas of like people you can go to. And then the run up to the 2019 general election happened, and they basically every politician's like automatic email replies was basically like, don't bother us, like we're dealing with the election. Like we're not going to look at anything, and because we're trying to win positions of power rather than, you know, kind of look at any issues that people have, which is ridiculous. You think, if anything, at a general election, that's when you should kind of be listening to what the public are wanting more, really. But what do I know?
Well, you would think so, yeah, but like that's not really how it works, is it? Because we're now obviously back into a whole rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic thing. I read something recently that in terms of energy bills, under the Tories it could go up, I think, increase by about 50%. Then Labour came out and said X, Y, and Z, and in real terms it would be only rising by 45%. So that's what we're having to deal with. Yeah, the illusion of choice. This makes no real material difference for millions of people in the UK at all. And quite frankly, that's sickening. Like we're being asked to support a Labour Party who do next to fuck all and will do next to fuck all about this problem until it's like smacking them straight in the face. And it's to your point about like not a sexy cause or whatever that is. The people don't seem to want to go to bat for people who've been demonized through programs like Benefits Britain and things like that. And I mean, we've both worked in the community sector for many, many years. It's just normal for us to be around all different kinds of people. And they're humans, and people have been dehumanized to make it easier to just ignore them. But the problem that the Tories and also Labour have got here is they can't just ignore this now.
No.
This is not to be ignored. This could quite easily spiral out of control into real civil unrest, because if you get a sweet spot in terms of how many people are affected by this, that's a force of nature and it cannot be controlled.
No, I had a conversation as well about, you know, because you start talking to your family members about this, and you know, kind of how it's going to affect them. And me, mum, God bless her, because you know her and her flowery way of words. She was saying how she'd been to the doctors, and she'd been talking, she's going to kill me for saying this, but she'd been like discussing menopause, and the doctor basically like offered her HRT, and she said she wanted to keep her hot flashes so that she didn't have to have the heating on as much. And I thought,
the thing is, your mum, I don't know whether she's serious or not.
No, I think she's deadly serious.
Wow.
That's the funniest yet bleakest thing I've kind of heard. Yeah. Yeah, and obviously, we always like help each other out and stuff and things like that. I'm not going to see her cold or anything like that. She puts the heat, she'll just stick an extra jumper on. She puts the heating on for a cat more than anything else.
Yeah.
But it's people who've got particularly who've got like respiratory illnesses, which he has, or kind of other people who are very elderly, who you think are making these choices about not sticking their heating on. It's not just sad, it's actually dangerous. It can it can literally kill people, and it's unforgivable that people are having to make these choices. Do they put the heating on, or do they have something to eat that day?
Mm-hmm.
It isn't right. It isn't.
It's disgusting, and for me, it comes back to like what my baseline is for like giving a shit and trying to like do something about it. If there's no alternative within the sort of mainstream political spectrum, which there isn't in terms of everybody having what they need and a little bit more, then I'm not interested in engaging with that mainstream political spectrum, and we'll just fall back on what we've always done, which is mutual aid. And I think that's what we're going to have to do going forwards. And the sad part of that is it might even bail the government out of a spot, because obviously, there are big networks now where we'll try and like distribute food and do whatever we can do. But I'm concerned that the problem's now going to be so big that even like all of the different like networks around the country can't even scratch the surface of it, because a lot of them were put in place because of austerity. So we've got like 10, 11 years of that, and then this, and then the COVID pandemic, and then we've got all the aggravating factors around that too. So it's really scary, to be quite honest with you. Like,
and the thing is, the energy companies as well, they're raking it in. I mean, British Gas had profits of more than 172 million in the first 6 months of 2021. I don't know if you saw it, actually. The energy company OVO as well released this blog
my God,
post.
you tell what's going on.
So they, OVO released a blog post to their customers with like 10 money saving tips on how to keep warm. The tips that they had on there, sorry, this blog post was so tasteless, I wanted to give it a lateral flow test. They said that people should do star jumps, that you should hula hoop, or you should cuddle your pets to try and stay warm.
Wow, man.
And like we've worked in various different sectors. A blog post like that doesn't just go out. Like, no. I don't think people realize how many different people that would have had to go through, like particularly because it's a corporate piece of writing as well. And did nobody read this thing and go, what?
Well, the thing is, though, does that not speak to one of the aspects of this cost of living issue? For people in those positions who sign that off, they're generally going to be on like middle to reasonably high wages for like middle to upper management, aren't they?
Yeah.
So in terms of how this will affect them in their life back in their family home, they're probably going to be able to pay this, aren't they? And they'll probably be the people going, well, we should all pull our belts in and whatnot. And I'm not hating, not one little bit. I want that for everybody. I want that to be like a way people can, be paid a fair amount of money for a fair day's work. And that hasn't been the case in the UK for a long time. Many other countries around the world either, because like capitalism just wants to keep squeezing the last drops out of people. And my concern is that it might have people turn on each other, because scarcity always leads to conflict, doesn't it? Because what's going to happen? Crime, it's going to go through the roof, because people are going to go out and steal, and they're going to go out and probably burgle as well. And who are they going to burgle? Those people. So that's going to there's going to be these sort of sub effects that are going to go on. And that's a real worry. I'm really worried about the social fabric, because, with the backdrop of like the Brexit divide and all of the other manufactured culture war divides, there's not that like sort of community spirit, and a lot of people don't know who their neighbor is. So there's this kind of distrust. Yeah, it reminds us of like bloody like East Germany, the whole Stasi thing where it was like your dad was spying on you. Well, I don't think it's that extreme, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, and we were encouraged to do that a lot through the pandemic, weren't we? Like grass on your neighbours if that, if they've got people round and stuff and things like that, while they're, getting absolutely, kind of doing lines in the garden of Number 10 or whatever it was that they,
whatever it is they allegedly were doing.
Yeah, and we're not, that's the other thing as well. We're not, they've often used the phrase "all in this together." It's that isn't the case. I think there was a thing in Forbes about the 10 world's most richest men. Their wealth has doubled since the start of the pandemic, and there's been like, in the first year of the pandemic, there was like a new billionaire made every day. Some people have really profited from what we've been going through in the last couple of years, and in the other and in the austerity, years before that as well. It's not that everybody I know, whether they be working class, whether they be middle class, is absolutely definitely worse off, than they were and has been. But it's, when you look at people like, people in the government, when you look at people like Elon Musk and, and Bill Gates and all the rest of it, there was a bunch of names on that 10 richest men who I was thinking, who's that? So I can't tell you who all of them were, but it is printed. We're absolutely not in this together. There was the Joseph Rowntree Foundation today. They said that there's 1.8 million children living in poverty in the UK at the moment.
Inexcusable. Like, here, can I just say something? I'm banging this whole like go to Mars thing and all of that, but only when everybody on Earth is taken care of and a little bit more. When we get that shit right, let's all cheer the rich men going to Mars. Well, maybe it's not cheer, but I'll watch it and maybe silently hope that. No, I won't. No, I'm not even going to say that. That's really bad. That's bad karma, man. I can't say that. but I want to have that moment that people had in the 60s when they went to the moon, and this for rave tracks, like in the next 20 years, it'll be fantastic because the amount of times like we choose to go to the moon's been sampled. It's like, but that's another thing. No. Just for rave tracks alone, let's have them fly to Mars because the samples will be tremendous.
Yeah.
But I want what I'm probably never going to get, but you never know. I mean, what could happen is like this could actually prick the conscience of people who otherwise don't give two fucks about people living in poverty, because they're being dragged into it too. And if there's one thing we've learned over the last sort of 10 years during the austerity era and the whole benefits Britain like smearing thing, people want to feel like they aren't that. But we've learned through the pandemic, you're a couple of pay packets away from absolute obliteration.
Absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt. The last time I think I was thinking like the last time we kind of saw this with, kind of wages being capped and, kind of prices going up and taxes going up was in 1381, just before the Peasants' Revolt booted off. So all we need is like Wat Tyler arise from the dead and smack Rishi Sunak with his little red suitcase or whatever. It's absolutely despicable. Everything is more expensive now. They're even trying to gentrify foraging. Keep seeing all of these articles about like collecting free food, but buy this like basket for 50 quid.
Tell us about it, man. Get yourself a carrier bag and get yourself in them woods.
Yeah, it's
fuck your mad wicker basket. You can't afford it. Your kid needs baby formula. One thing I'd like to say before we move on to the positive news section, just as me dog's tablet alarm goes off, he's got epilepsy. Got to make sure he's getting his tablets. One thing I would like to say is, if you say maybe somebody, they've got a buggy, something like that, might be in the supermarket, maybe see them slip like maybe a little bit of food in the back. You didn't see that, did you? No, we didn't see that. That didn't happen, did it? No, that didn't happen. And I'd just like to leave you with that little Thundercats ending.